Well, hello, good morning or afternoon, depending on where you are. My name is Lior Samfiru. I'm the employment lawyer. And why am I here, you ask? Well, I'm here to answer your questions. I'm here to tell you what you need to know about your workplace rights. As I said, I'm an employment lawyer. I'm the head of the employment law practice at Samfiru Tumarkin LLP. We operate across Ontario, British Columbia, and Alberta. And I've been fielding a lot of questions over the past number of months about vaccines, about mandates, about losing your job, being put on a leave without pay. Well, whatever the issue is, now is the time, now is the place to ask your question. All you need to do, because we're live, is type in your question. I'll see it, I'll read it, I'll answer it. And then you can walk away with the information you need to have in order to know what your rights are, to feel better, to know what to do, what you can do, because the laws have not taken a break. There are still laws here to protect you. So if you have issues or questions or concerns, ask your question. Maybe you lost your job. Maybe your employers threatened you with the loss of your job. Maybe there's an ultimatum in front of you. Maybe you're staring at a severance package and you want to know what to do about it. Maybe you're harassed or bullied in the workplace. Whatever that concern is, no problem. Let's chat about it. And let me get you another contact information before we get started. You may hear something today that makes you want to have a private chat with me. You may want to run something by me, a scenario. No problem. To connect with me or my team directly, all you do is you go to employmentlawyer.ca. Again, employmentlawyer.ca. That's our website. And you'll see, first of all, you can read a lot of information there about your workplace rights. That's easy. But beyond that, you can also get all the contact information, phone numbers, email addresses, or you can just fill in a form and submit it and we'll call you. It's all there. So by all means, don't hesitate. Don't be bashful. If you have a question, this is the time. This is the place. Take advantage, guys. Again, my name is Lior Samfiru, partner, Samfiru Tumarkin LLP, and I'm here at your service today. I'm going to start answering questions. Don't be bashful. We usually get a lot of questions. I want to get to as many of them as possible. Our first question today is from Alona. What temporary changes has the government made to the Employment Standards Act, and how does it affect non-unionized employees currently on an unpaid leave of absence? Let me just see here. Looking to take action for severance. So the government has not changed the Employment Standards Act as relates to vaccines. Okay, so there's no changes, but here's what happened. The government has implemented certain mandates with respect to vaccines, okay? So for example, in Ontario, they said long-term care homes, you have to get a vaccine. But if you work in an industry that's not mandated, retail, you work in hospitality, you name it, and there's no mandate, if you lose your job or even if you're suspended, you're owed severance. Usual laws apply to you, and that severance can be as much as 24 months pay. Okay, so Alona, there's no changes to the Employment Standards Act. There's no real changes other than the mandates that have been implemented that only apply for a very small number of industries. So if you lose your job, Alona, you need to give us a call. Of course, this only applies to non-union employees. By the way, everything we talk about on these sessions only applies to non-union employees because the only one allowed to help a union employee is the union. No other options or exceptions in that situation. Next question. It's a long one. Let's see if I can get through it. From Gamal. Located in Edmonton, work for the city. Our union doesn't want to represent employees. So unfortunately, I'm going to stop there, Gamal, because as I was saying before, the union is the only one allowed to help you. Now, that's true even if the union doesn't want to help you. In that case, you may have the option of filing a complaint against the union with the labor board. That's rarely successful. The problem with being part of a union is that the employee doesn't have the rights, the union has the rights. So because of that, the union is the only one that can do anything. So if you're part of a union, my only answer is always going to be, you have to talk to the union. There's no other options. Next question. Another long one. Next question is from Nancy. I'm an educational assistant in a federal school in Ontario. I have been served a notice that I have until the 15th of November to get my first shot. If I don't, I will be placed on an unpaid leave for 90 days. If after 90 days I'm not vaccinated, they'll terminate me. Am I entitled to severance? So, first of all, Nancy, this all assumes you are not part of a union. If you're part of a union, you have to talk to the union. But if you're not part of a union, yes, you are entitled to severance. Right now, there's no government mandate that applies to you. So if you lose your job, frankly, even if you're suspended, you don't even have to wait for the termination. Once they put you on that suspension or that unpaid leave, you can choose to treat that unpaid leave as a termination and get severance. Now, if you want to find out, for Nancy and for anyone else, if you want to find out right now how much severance you're owed, easy to do. All you do is you go to pocketemploymentlawyer.ca. Again, pocketemploymentlawyer.ca. You'll see our severance calculator tool there. Use it. In seconds, you can find out how much you're owed. It's free and anonymous, easy to use. So Nancy, yes, you are owed severance in that situation. If that happens, if you're suspended or terminated, give me a call, connect with me, and let's get that to work to get you what you're owed. And again, to connect with me, for Nancy and anyone else, employmentlawyer.ca. Again, employmentlawyer.ca. And my name is Lior Samfiru. I'm the employment lawyer. I'm answering your questions. Next question is from Allison. My husband's employer is threatening to send him home. He submitted a religious accommodation and is dealing with the union. Again, you have to talk to the union, Allison. There's no other options or exceptions. Next question from Mitch L. I have worked from home for 2 years. I have never worked side by side, and I no longer have an office. They say productivity has increased since we have worked remotely. I'm 33 years employed and will be fired December 10th due to their mandate. Well, I agree that it doesn't make sense because you're not there anyway. That said, Mitch, that there's no way to stop your employer from doing that, even though I don't think it makes any sense. It's simply a question of the compensation that you are owed. All right. Now, that compensation could be significant. Now, depending on your length of employment, that could be months and months pay that you're owed. You can check out the severance calculator at pocketemploymentlawyer.ca. So what I want everyone to think is not necessarily in terms of legal versus illegal. I want you to think practically. If your employer is doing something, there's no way to stop it. It's just a question of what are the consequences from them doing that. I can easily tell you that what your employer may be doing is illegal, but that doesn't mean that you can stop it. All that means is if they are doing something, there's going to be compensation that's owed to you. So in your situation, Mitch L., you're going to be owed severance, no doubt about that. Again, as long as you're not part of a union. Next question from Heather. Is it legal to serve a liability waiver? Heather, it's not about whether it's legal. It's a question of does it make any sense and does it do anything? And the answer is no. That legal waiver, I know it's been floating around, waste of time, waste of paper. Your employer is not going to read it. Forget about signing it. They're not even going to read it. So it doesn't do anything. It's just a waste of time. And I'm saying when you print that off, you're killing trees for no reason. Don't do that. No point. Waste of time completely. Next question comes to us today from Carrie. Carrie, I've been told I'm on an unpaid leave as of November the 1st. Can I refuse? Do I still show up to work? If I don't show up, does it appear as I'm complying? I'm not quitting or resigning. They're saying if you're unvaccinated, you can't come in as of November 1st. As long as they've said that you can't come in, then it's not about complying. They're not allowing you to come in, and there's no point for you to go in. All that happens is now that you're on an unpaid leave, you have to decide whether you want to stay on a leave and see what happens, or do you want to treat that leave as a termination of your employment. We call that a constructive dismissal. So, Carrie, you can say, by putting me on a leave, you've terminated me. Now you have to pay me severance. Okay? So you can make that decision. If that is what you want to do, let's connect as soon as possible. Contact my office through employmentlawyer.ca. But if your employer has already announced that you're not allowed in after November 1st, there's no point showing up. If you show up, they'll probably call the police because you're trespassing at that point. So no, you can't show up. But you can't treat that as a termination. So for Carrie, for anyone else, if you've been put on a leave of absence because you didn't get the vaccine, or really for any other reason, as long as there's no government mandate that applies to you, you can treat that leave as a termination. You don't have to wait for months and see what happens and hope to get back to work. You can treat it as a termination now and get severance now. If that's what you want to do, contact me. Again, employmentlawyer.ca. All right, next question from Belinda. On YouTube, how do I claim a wrongful dismissal? My employer is claiming that I'm unwilling to compromise with vaccine, but that is not true. So what happens, Belinda, is if you're let go because of this vaccine issue, or even suspended, as I was saying before, that you're owed severance. And if you don't get severance, that's a wrongful dismissal. How do you claim it? You contact us. That's what we do for a living. It's not a complicated process. Oftentimes, we don't even have to do formal legal action. We can simply deal with the employer without that. It's not complicated. It's not hard. Doesn't take long in most cases. So you just contact us as soon as that happens. You can't stop your employer, Belinda, from letting you go. Can't do that. There's no way to physically restrain them from letting you go. What you can do, if and when they do let you go, is make sure that you get the compensation that you're legally owed. To do that, just contact us, employmentlawyer.ca to contact us. And you see the address right on the screen there, employmentlawyer.ca. Okay, next question is from Evelyn. Human Rights said yesterday, I need a lawyer. My union is not helping, and I have asked for 3 quarters. Again, it has to be the union, unfortunately, Evelyn. There's no other option. Next question is from JC2004 on YouTube. If you lose your job due to not getting vaccinated, and later the employer wants you back, do you have any rights to seniority when reinstating? Or would that have to be negotiated? So here's how that works. If you're let go and then rehired, then if you want your seniority recognized, that has to be negotiated as part of an employment agreement, because otherwise generally you start from scratch, right? On the other hand, if you're not let go, but you're suspended, and let's say 3-4 months later, they say, okay, now come back to work, and you've decided to wait for that, then when you do come back to work, you have your seniority with you. It doesn't start from scratch. So if you are let go and rehired, you have to negotiate it. If you're suspended and then brought back, you still have your seniority. Okay, so hopefully, JC, that helps you. Guys, my name is Lior Samfiru. I'm the employment lawyer with Samfiru Tumarkin LLP. You can find me, contact me, all the information at employmentlawyer.ca. I'm live. I'm going to go back to answering questions, ask yours, and we'll try to get to it. Next question is from Ian. My employer says I will be dismissed with cause. Is there any case law to support this? Will the new legislation in Alberta affect this? So no. The only time your employer can let you go for cause, i.e. without any compensation, is if there's a government mandate that applies to you. So for example, if you're in Alberta and you work for the Alberta Public Service, and you're in the public sector, if you don't get the vaccine, you can be let go for cause without compensation, because your employer doesn't have a choice in the matter. The government says they have to. But in any other industry, if there's no government mandate, it's not cause. Now, I know a lot of employers are saying, oh, we're going to terminate you for cause. No, they can't. That's not legal. The law is going to consider this to be a without cause termination, meaning they're going to have to pay you severance. Again, a lot of employers are going to try to get away, quote unquote, with saying it's for cause, but it's not. The reality is the only way to deal with that, if you are let go for cause, if you are let go at all, is to contact us. Okay? We can deal with it. It's not complicated. It's what we do for a living. And you can contact us through employmentlawyer.ca. So, Ian, hopefully that answers that question. Okay, I see a long question here from Pramchand. It's too long for me to be able to answer right now or to read right now. Either make the question shorter, or you can send me an email off social media. You can get my email address at employmentlawyer.ca. Next question is from Michelle. Excuse me. How do I get my severance and I'm at retirement home? Am I eligible? So yes, you are eligible, Michelle. A retirement home is different than a long-term care home. Again, assuming you're not part of a union. Only if you're not. How do you get your severance? You contact us. We get the severance. If your employer doesn't pay it when they let you go, and they probably won't, we have to get involved. There's no other way around that. So you contact us. You can call, you can email. All the information is at employmentlawyer.ca, and we can get to work and get you your severance. It's not a complicated process, okay? So let's do that if, in fact, you're let go. So So Jonathan asks, any comment about the federally regulated air transport sector? They announced a vaccine mandate was coming, but nothing has been written into the interim order yet from Transport Canada. I understand that's coming. I don't have any news on that, but my understanding there is coming very soon a vaccine mandate that applies to those working in airlines, those working in marine transport and railway. So the federally regulated transport sectors. When that happens, I don't know, but I expect it to be soon. Next question is from Florence. I work for a crown corporation, so the government mandate applies to me. Double vaccinated or negative testing weekly. I don't plan on testing. I have been on a total 10-day unpaid leave and will be terminated next week for non-compliance. I've been employed for 17 years. Would I still qualify for severance? No, unfortunately, Florence, you won't qualify because there is a government mandate. So because that government mandate, there's nothing that your employer doesn't have a choice in the matter. The government says you have to do that. So because of that situation, unfortunately, there's no compensation or severance that's going to be owed. Next question is from Susie. I've been terminated and told I don't qualify for my severance pay because I was fired with cause. I'm currently grieving the termination. So if you're grieving, means you're part of a union. So the union is the only one allowed to help you. And the only one that can answer whether that's legal or not is the union. Again, everything we talk about on these sessions, or if you've seen me on TV or on radio, everything I talk about only applies to non-union employees, only non-union. The reason for that is the only one allowed to help or even to advise a unionized employee is the union. There's nothing that you really can do outside of the union. So that's why everything you hear about only applies to non-union employees. Okay. Valeria on YouTube, are your clients' employers aware that they're firing the employees illegally? Do they usually fight their cases when they're asked to pay severance? Some may be aware and don't care. Some will find out very soon that they're firing illegally. Now, in terms of fighting, the vast majority of these cases resolve quickly because they're not going to win at the end of the day, so they're not going to fight for the sake of fighting. As soon as they get competent legal advice, they're going to say, yeah, you got to pay Lior's clients. So I'm not concerned about that. These matters are going to resolve, and they're going to resolve quickly, and they're not even, most of them have to go to court. Next question is from Monica. I'm a non-unionized hospital employee working in administration from home. No patient contact. They will terminate me with cause. Am I entitled to severance and or EI? So first of all, I don't know what province you're in, but I'll assume for now that we're in Ontario. If your employer the hospital did not give you the option of regular COVID tests, they just said vaccinate or nothing, then yes, you're entitled to severance. If they gave you the option for regular COVID tests and you said no, and that's why you're let go, then you're not getting severance. And the reason for that, there's a government mandate that applies to hospitals in Ontario that specifically says an employee has to at least agree to regular COVID tests. So if your employer skipped that step and simply said vaccination or gone, then you're going to be owed severance if you lose your job. Absolutely. If that's your situation, Monica, call us right away. Again, to get the contact information for anyone joining us, to connect with me off social media, to have a private discussion, to run your scenario by me and my team, employmentlawyer.ca. Okay, employmentlawyer.ca. Next, question from Scar on Facebook. Our employer, I don't belong to a union, has issued mandates. I'm working from home and have been since March 2020. We have the option of providing testing, but it will eventually be at our expense done by a lab. This could cause undue hardship financially. What options do we have in the circumstances? So, Scar, assuming there's no government mandate that applies to you, there's only two options. Option number one is you do what your employer says. Option one. Option number two is you say, no, I'm not doing that. And if you lose your job, you're owed severance. Okay? They cannot let you go in that situation without severance. Again, as long as there's no government mandate. But they will potentially let you go or suspend you. You can't stop that. So option number one is do what they say, whether it's testing or vaccination. Option number two is you don't, and then we get you severance. Okay? If you choose option two, which is your job is at risk and you want to get your severance, that's when you contact me. Okay? Reach out to me through employmentlawyer.ca. All right, I'm going to continue. Lots of questions today's guys. That's great. Dave Johnson. I work at a fly-in mine. Finish work next week due to federal fly policy. I assume that they will recall the mandate, but the company will continue with COVID mandate. Not sure I understand the question, so I can't answer that. Sorry, Dave. Next question is from Bobby. I'm from Manitoba. I'm told I will be out on suspension for not following the COVID vaccine procedure. Am I entitled to severance or EI? So I'm not going to advise on Manitoba. We operate in Ontario, Alberta, and BC. So I don't want to say anything that's incorrect. So you would have to seek advice in Manitoba, Bobby. Okay. RM, do you know federally regulated companies have mandated the vaccine? Yeah, many of them have. For example, banks. But it's them that's mandated and not the government. Meaning, if you work for a bank, as an example, that's federally regulated. If the bank says, if you don't get the vaccine, you're out of here, you're going to be owed severance. The bank, for example, may say, no, we're going to let you go for cause, but that's not legal. All right. They have to pay severance. So the government has not mandated it, but certain employers have. And in which case, again, if you lose that job, you're owed severance. Tanya is asking about the notice of liability. I've answered that earlier. Waste of time, waste of paper. Don't ever bother with that. No one's going to read it ever. Okay, so let's not even go there. I'm going to continue answering. Next question from Chris on Facebook. If you are let go from your job for not being vaccinated, what would someone be looking at for severance? So again, severance is what you're owed. You can calculate your severance right now, Chris, and anyone. I mentioned it earlier. I'm going to mention it again. To find out now how much you're owed, grab your smartphone, your tablet, desktop, laptop, whatever you want, and go to pocketemploymentlawyer.ca. You see that right there. Pocketemploymentlawyer.ca. We have our severance calculator tool there. You answer 3 questions, and you find out how many months of severance you are owed. It's anonymous. You don't have to put in your name or the company's name. It's free, no credit card numbers. You don't have to put in any identifying information. It's just there for your information. And if you want to, at the end there's a button you can press if you want to contact me from that severance calculator, only if you want to. So that's the best way to find Chris. Severance, depending on a number of factors, can be as much as 24 months pay. So next question from Peter on Facebook. If the government mandates for crown corporations to implement vaccine mandates, and then when I get fired for not disclosing my status, do I have any legal rights in court? Union? No. You first of all, unionized employee can never go to court. Okay, it has to file a grievance with the union, so only the union can help you. There's no standing in court. For next question is from Remza on Facebook. My employer requested me to disclose my status. If I choose not to disclose, can they use this as cause? So the reality is that it's not cause, but you probably will lose your job if you don't disclose. You can't stop your employer from letting you go. It's not cause, meaning that your employer is going to have to pay you severance, but they will let you go. I don't doubt that, and you shouldn't doubt that for 1 second. You can't stop your employer from letting you go. Now, this assumes you're not part of a union, and it assumes there's no government mandate that applies to you. Okay? If you are let go, Remza, or anyone else, you contact me. You contact me right away. You do that through employmentlawyer.ca. Next question is from Heather. Is it legal for my employer to make us sign an attestation as to whether we will be getting the shot and when, or if we will be getting it? Again, I want everyone to stop thinking about legal or illegal. It's a question of what happens if you don't comply with it. And the reality is, Heather, that if you don't sign it, you will lose your job. It may be illegal, but you will lose your job because you can't physically stop your employer from doing that. At that point, you're owed severance. Again, assuming you're not part of the union and assuming there's no government mandate. The answer would be different if there's a government mandate. So is it legal? Frankly, it doesn't matter, because either way, you're going to lose your job if you don't do what they say. So you have to make a decision. Am I prepared to lose my job, or is it better for me to do what they say? That's a personal decision. I'm not advising about personal decisions. All I'm saying is if you are going to lose your job, you're owed compensation. Our job is to get you that compensation. And again, reach me through employmentlawyer.ca. So from Seaflower on YouTube, should employees agree to go to the office for a team building event if we have been working from home for a long time? Does it set a precedent? It doesn't set a precedent, and yes, you should agree. It doesn't hurt you, and it certainly shows that you're part of the team and that you're a team player. So I would have no concerns with that. Next question. Can private from Gamal, can private citizens ask the court to halt the vaccine mandate? You can't prevent your employer from issuing a vaccine mandate. You can challenge a government mandate by way of a charter application. That takes years. So practically speaking, no. Next question is from Geeks Reborn. I love that name, Geeks Reborn on YouTube. Is there any recourse for a medical exemption that doesn't get accepted? My doctor says I will face injury and at a high risk and should not take the vaccine. My employer says there are only 2 reasons. That's nonsense, okay? Your doctor is the only one that can decide if you should get the vaccine or not. In fact, your doctor is not even required to give the reason as to why you can't get the vaccine. You can say that for medical reasons, you cannot get the vaccine, full stop. They don't have to explain why. Your employer doesn't have a right to know your personal medical information. And if your employer says, too bad, we don't believe your doctor, that's a human rights violation. Okay, so beyond any severance you may be owed, you could be owed human rights damages. So you need a clear doctor's note saying for medical reasons, you can't get the vaccine. And whether it's because you've had a bad reaction or you have cancer, God forbid, it doesn't matter. Your employer doesn't have a right to know what the medical issue is, only that you can't get the vaccine for medical reasons. And if your employer tries to do anything, yeah, there's going to be legal repercussions. Next question from Natalia on YouTube. What if you were hired with the vaccine not a requirement, then changing the terms of your employment? Well, no one was hired with the vaccine being a requirement. So that's why if you are let go for not getting the vaccine, that's why that's a without cause termination. That's why you're owed severance. That's exactly why. So if you are let go, you're entitled to severance because it's a without cause termination. I'll take a couple more questions, guys, before we have to wrap it up. Okay, let's see. Dawn says Ontario does not have a mandate. Yes, it does. Let's see. Again, we talked unionized employees from Tracy. I've answered that. Let's see. Okay, I'm just looking for another question I can answer. Well, people, JC 2004 asks, when you guys get involved for severance, do you guys charge a percentage or a flat fee? Yes, we charge a percentage only because we know individuals can't afford to just pay for lawyers. So we put our money where our mouth is, so we take the risk, so you don't have to take the risk. Okay. Kimberly, again, notice of liability, waste of time, mainly because no one's going to read it. Your employer's not going to read it. They're going to look at that. They're going to throw it away. There's no point of that, ever. Okay. Last questions for today from Paula. What happens if you approach your doctor for a medical exemption and they say no because it's not an allergy? Well, your doctor is the only one that can decide if you can get the vaccine for medical reasons or not. I can't decide that. You can't decide that. So if your doctor won't give you an exemption, that's not a possibility for you. You can challenge your doctor's decision. You can, if you have another doctor, you can go for a second opinion, but that's the only thing that you can do. Guys, I know there's a lot more questions today, so the best way to continue the conversation is to connect with me through email, through phone, and you can do that through employmentlawyer.ca. Again, employmentlawyer.ca. You can read a lot more about your rights there. You can get my phone number, my email address, especially if you lost your job or are about to lose your job or about to be placed on an unpaid leave. We need to connect right away. Don't wait on that, okay? We need to get to work immediately. Guys, hopefully this was helpful. My name is Lior Samfiru. I'm a partner at Samfiru Tumarkin LLP. We're the largest employee side law firm in Canada. Happy to help you. Happy to continue this discussion. I'll be back next week, but don't wait until then. Let's continue that discussion through employmentlawyer.ca. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day, and we'll talk to you soon.